Sandra felt like she was living a wonderful dream and dreaded every morning that she would wake up to normal life again. So far, so good. She'd almost begun to relax into happiness when a surprise visitor brought her back to fear and terror. "Peggy let me in," her Aunt Margaret said, puffing away on her long cigarette holder. She smiled like a death's head skull. Sandra blanched. "I was in the neighborhood and I thought I'd check up on you." "How thoughtful of you," Sandra said helplessly, sinking to her chair. "How were your classes?" "Good." "Are you getting enough exercise?" Sandra tried not to think of the sweaty, writhing orgies that accompanied the rituals, but something of it must have shown on her face. "I think so." Margaret's eyes narrowed at her. She walked over to the window and plucked at Sandra's pledge pin. "Sigma Tau Nu. I don't remember them. I thought you were pledging Delt." "I just found I was a better fit with the news. They're a little quieter. I just found the social swirl of the Delts difficult." Margaret exhaled a plume of smoke. "I bet. What's the new specialty?" "Specialty?" "You know, charity. We helped the deaf kids, I remember. Took 'em places, raised funds." Sandra thought of the squirrel whose corpse they had mangled for their most recent ritual. "Animals. We raise money to save animals." "From what?" "Deforestation." Sandra remembered reading something about that in her textbook for sociology. Margaret stared at her. "Sounds nuts to me. Who needs forests? You could pave this country from end to end and I wouldn't cry." Sandra stifled the words that she wanted to say in response. "Don't argue. Just get rid of her." "You're not experiencing any other difficulties?" Margaret looked away, as if the distaste of the subject were even too much for her coarse soul to survive. Margaret looked away as if the distaste of the subject were even too much for her coarse soul to bear. "That roommate, Peggy, seems like a girl with a good head on her shoulders." "Yes," Sandra said, feeling mechanical. "Very level-headed. She pledged Delt, so I kind of get the experiences vicariously." Margaret put a fresh cigarette in her holder. "Vicariously, eh? Fancy college learning. Guess that tuition's not going to waste." She inhaled deeply, looking around the dorm room, presumably for signs of incipient depravity. "You know you're a lucky girl." "Yes, I am," Sandra said, thinking of Trixie's fresh, ripe body and throaty laugh. That was probably not what her aunt had in mind. Margaret's cheeks sucked in as she drew in another lungful of smoke. She blew it out slowly as her thoughts. "I'd have packed you off to a convent so fast your head would have spun. That's what you deserved." "I'm a lucky girl," Sandra repeated. "I hope you die." "Of course," Margaret said, idly flipping through the notebook on her desk. "That might have been just what you were wishing for." "No, Auntie." "What's this about, then?" "What?" Sandra got up to look where her aunt was pointing in her notebook. "That's my English homework." "What's all this about Satan?" Sandra flushed. She'd forgotten about that. "Now, surely you remember the Puritan poet John Milton, Paradise Lost? The story of the fall of man through the sins of Adam and Eve?" "Well, that seems entirely appropriate," Margaret sighed. "I'd feel better if you pledged with the Delts. Some of my best friends are Delts. You pledge for life, you know. It's not some silly thing, sororities. They're deadly serious." "Yes, I understand," Sandra said, thinking of her blood oath of loyalty to Sigma Tau Nu. "On pain of death, should I ever betray my sister, this I swear." "I take it very seriously indeed, Auntie." "Well, that's good to hear." Margaret was looking bored, which sparked hope in Sandra that she might finally leave. She stubbed out her cigarette in the ashtray and snapped open her purse to put the holder inside. All right. It was so nice of you to stop by, Auntie. Sandra did her best to sound enthusiastic. You're welcome any time, you interfering old biddy. You write your father every week? Yes, Auntie. Dull letters. Every week she wrote, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Nothing is wrong. I'm not satisfied. Margaret frowned. I think I need to drop by that sorority house. I don't remember a Sigma Tau Nu. I want to be sure they're on the up and up. They are. They're a great bunch of gals, and they've been so helpful. I can make my mind up for myself. Margaret smiled as if she had caught Sandra in a lie. I assume they're on Greek Row? Last house on the left. Sandra's spirit sank. It's my bridge night, you know, Margaret said, frowning again with disappointment. I hope I'm not late for the first rubber. You're putting me to a lot of bother. May a fiery death keep you from your bridge game. I really appreciate your kindness to me, Auntie. I'll give a full report to your father when I phone him this weekend. Sandra waved, out of words. She counted to 30, then walked to the window to peek out on the street. Her aunt had double parked, of course, right outside the dorm. When the red caddy pulled away and headed down the road, Sandra grabbed her coin purse and ran to the phone in the hallway. Lois answered on the third ring. Sigma Tau Nu, how are you? Lois, it's Sandra. Hey, Sandra, can you pick up some more candles at Woolworth's tonight? We're low on blue ones. She tried to keep her panic under control. Lois, my aunt, is coming over to the house to check up on the sorority. Doesn't approve, eh? She was a doubt. I just want her to leave me alone. If the girls passed inspection, maybe her aunt and her father would both slack off on the watchfulness and she could breathe again. Gotcha, Lois said, her voice lazy. You know what I mean. Treat her the way she should be treated. They could all be perfect little ladies when they wanted to be. At the first game of the season, where all the sororities got cheers in turn from the fans, they all smiled and waved like they were any other house. It could work. They could fool her aunt. Oh, we'll treat her right, Lois said. Thanks ever so. Sandra hung up. She sighed and fell back against the wall. That was a real load off her mind. That was Sandra, Lois said, returning to the parlor where several girls were gathered around the spirit board. Trixie caught the strange tone in Lois's voice. She looked up. What's wrong? Her aunt's on the way over here to check us out. Sandra said she just wants the aunt to leave her alone. She said we should treat her right. The girls got very quiet. But it was timid little Agnes who said, So we should kill her, right? Yeah, Lois agreed. All the other girls nodded too. Trixie sighed. Put the board away. We have work to do. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it